Pig Heart Boy by Mallory Blackman. Chapter 3. News. As I turned the key in the front door, I could hear once that Mum and Dad were at it again. Now there's a surprise, I mouthed silently, adding, I wonder what they're arguing about today. As if I didn't know. Shutting the door quietly behind me, I tiptoed through the hall to the living room door. Now I won't allow it, Mum raged. I recognised the tone of that voice. It burnt like a laser. I winced, aware of how my dad would react to it. I wasn't wrong. Don't talk to me like that. I have some say in this too, and I've weighed up all the consequences. I've listed all the pros and the cons. We don't have any other choice. We? This has nothing to do with us. You went ahead and did all this on your own, as usual. Mum's voice was lemon bitter. You make it sound as if all I was doing was thinking of myself. Weren't you? Of course not. Now why don't I believe that? My mum was saying, never stick your head where... Mum wasn't letting Dad get away with anything, but that's exactly what you're doing. You're getting us something we'll never get out of, and you didn't even ask first. It's for Cameron's own good. It's for the good of this whole family, said Dad. Because you said so, Mum scoffed. From where I'm standing, it looks as if what you want to do is deform your son. I nodded grimly. I'd guess what Mum and Dad would be arguing about, and I was right again. I hated always being right. Mind you, I hadn't heard this particular argument before. This one seemed to be a new track on an old CD. What do you mean, deform? Now it was Dad's turn to hit the roof and pass right through it. How dare you say that? You wouldn't say that if this was a human heart. But that's the whole point. It's not, is it? You want to make our son a pig heart boy. A pig heart boy? What on earth was Mum talking about? I frowned as I leaned in closer. Better a pig heart that works than a human heart that doesn't, Dad argued. Better than that, no heart at all. You think so, said Mum. Yes. Don't you want our son to live? A slap, like a crack of a whip, made me flinch, as if Mum had slapped me instead of Dad. Silence echoed throughout the house. I'll never forgive you for saying that to me. Never. Although Mum's voice held quite fury, there was more than a little hurt in it as well. I love Cameron desperately. I'd do anything for him, anything. If I could give him my heart, I would, but I won't let you use him like this. Kathy, don't you think I've thought about this, said Dad. Don't you think I've lain awake at nights thinking about this? I've thought of nothing else but Cameron for the last 2 years. Our son has a life to live at most. There aren't enough human organ donors to go around, so we have no choice. We can allow our son to have a pig heart, or we can watch our son die. You'll really let him implant a pig's heart into our little boy? I don't want to see him die, Dad interrupted, and I've been reading all about it. The doctors have been using pig valves in heart surgery for years. The valve is different to a whole heart, Mum argued. Not so different. They use pig skin for skin grafts on humans. Pig insulin is supplied to diabetics. Pig's heart valves are used all the time. So why not use a whole pig's heart? It's not the same, Mum insisted. What's different? Well, if you don't know, then I can't tell you. Look, this is Cameron we're talking about. Our son, our only child, said Dad. I leaned against the wall and looked down, way down past my feet, past the carpet, to a place far, far below me where I was totally alone. My stomach was churning like a liquidizer. Beads of sweat prickled on my forehead like hot needles. A pig's heart. What was the phrase Mum had used? Pig heart boy. Kathy, it's not as if you go to the nearest pig farm and pick any old pig. They have pigs which have been specially bred for this, and that makes it all right, does it? Asked Mum bitterly. Yes, it does. That's the whole point, Dad replied. Stop it, both of you, I shouted. I couldn't bear to listen to any more. I turned and raced up the stairs, stomping down with my feet as hard as I could and as I ran. I only got halfway up the stairs before I started hurting, so I slowed down, but I didn't stop. Cam, wait! Mum called out. I didn't answer. I couldn't. But I wanted to let both of them know that I was here. They were talking about me as if I didn't have a mind of my own, as if I couldn't make my own decisions. How could they? How dare they? It was my body, my heart. I threw myself down on the bed. I'd barely caught my breath when there came a knock at the door. "Cam, can I come in?" asked Dad. "I suppose so," I muttered. Dad walked into the room, followed by Mum. Mum asked, "Did you hear what we were talking about?" "I think the whole street heard," I replied as I sat up. Dad sighed. "I'd rather you hadn't heard the idea that way." "What way?" I asked. "With your mum and me arguing about it," he replied. I didn't see what difference it made. At least my eavesdropping, I'd heard the truth, as both Mum and Dad saw it. But now they'd changed their way of talking. Now they'd talk me in a way they thought I could understand, a way suitable for a teenage boy. All false smiles and false promises. "Cam," Dad began as he sat on the edge of my bed. "Cam, a few months ago I wrote to a doctor, to a man called Dr. Richard Bryce." I looked across at Mum, who was leaning against the door. "Who's he?" "He was the surgeon, but now he's an immunologist specialising in transgenics." "Huh? What's that? What's a transgenics?" "Transplanting the organs of one species of animal into another." "Why would anyone do that?" "Because there aren't enough human organ donors," Dad carefully explained. "So people like him are trying to find other ways of keeping people like you alive." "People like me?" I winced at Dad's phrase. "I mean people who need hearts or kidneys or livers to have a decent quality of life," Dad added. I said slowly, "So you want me to have a pig's heart?" "I want you to have a heart that will allow you to do all the things you want to do. All the things a boy your age should. And that's where Dr. Bryce comes in. Transplant are his areas of expertise. I wrote to him via a newspaper to tell him about you and your case. I thought he might be able to do something to help you. I also sent him a letter of permission so that he could get your notes from our doctor in the hospital." "Why didn't you tell me before?" "I didn't know if Dr. Bryce would want to help you. I didn't want to raise your hopes, only to see them dashed away. We've been down this road twice before when we thought you'd be able to get a heart transplant from a human donor. Remember?" Yes, I did remember. How could I forget? Once I'd even got as far as the hospital only to be turned back. A greater emergency had required the heart and I had been pipped to the post. Mum and Dad were furious. They stood and ranted at the hospital staff for a good 30 minutes. It wasn't their fault. The heart had been diverted to another hospital. There was nothing they could do, and then Mum burst into tears. No, I wasn't about to forget that little episode. I sighed. "Dad, I still wish you'd told me." "Don't worry about it, Cam. He didn't tell me either," Mum piped up from the door. I looked at her. She was unhappy, so tired and unhappy. This was what I was doing to her, doing to my family, tearing them apart. "So what's happened? Has Dr. Bryce agreed to heart transplant then?" "It's not as simple as that." Dad shook his head. "Dr. Bryce has agreed to come and see us and talk about it. I certainly wouldn't agree to it without talking to you first." "So when does Dr. Bryce want to see me?" Dad looked from me to Mum and back again. "He's coming to see you tonight."